Welcome back to Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Bert Miller. And today we welcome Chris Swonger. He's the president and CEO of DISCUS and Responsibility organization. Now, Chris brings over 2 decades of experience bridging government, industry, and advocacy. And he's spent his career helping global consumer brands that have been tied and led with integrity. And today he's guiding the spirits industry through one of its most difficult chapters in its history. So anyhow, welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Bert. Excited to be on and looking forward to the discussion.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know, Chris, the acronym DISCUS, can you let people know what that stands for?
You bet. The Distilled Spirits Council of the United States. DISCUS has been around since 1973 and really formed by many of the major spirits companies in the world. And again, it's been around since 1973. And in large part, DISCUS has played the instrumental role in being the advocate for the industry, both on international trade issues, federal issues, everything that's happening with the new administration in Capitol Hill, and state government relations issues. So DISCUS plays a vital role for the greater industry to make sure that when distillers across the world, but certainly in the United States, want to bring products to market, they can do so without unnecessary punitive legislation that can impact. So the products can get to the consumer.
Absolutely. And as a consumer, we want them to get to us. And I can tell you right now, the geography that Chris sits in is DC. So he's close to the action. He's there with passion. He works tirelessly on behalf of the distilled spirits industry. So anyhow, Chris, let's just jump into this. From your vantage point and DISCUS, we talked about some of the most difficult challenges that we're now facing, probably since early 1990s, 1991 or so. What are some of the challenges, number one, and then I'll come back to you in the second question to ask you kind of what's driving some of those challenges.
Sure. I mean, there's been a lot written about the current headwinds that not only the spirits industry is facing, but greater beverage alcohol, and it's a combination of things. And a lot of this is anecdotal, but legal drinking age consumers, they're not going out like they used to. Their social patterns have changed, more tailored to social media. They interact and personalize differently with 22-year-olds back and forth. So that's one. There's a lot of been written about Ozempic, and is that having an impact on people enjoying and beverage alcohol responsibly? Inflation's been a challenge. The economy's been a challenge where, coming out of the pandemic, during the pandemic, consumers had more expendable income, so they're not trading up to buy that special bottle of spirits. Cannabis, the influx of cannabis legalization, the influx of hemp-based beverages coming into the marketplace. We continue to see great growth in RTDs, ready to drink products, but the entire beverage alcohol industry has been relatively flat, to be honest with you, over the past year or so. For spirits, this is a relatively new challenge because spirits has enjoyed great growth over the past 15 years. But even spirits has slowed quite a bit. Every year, DISCUS does an annual economic briefing. In the last 2 years, I've had the privilege of showcasing that spirits, for the first time ever, took over market share by revenue of beer and wine. And hopefully that trend will continue with all great respect to the beer and wine categories. But it's an interesting time. 1991, when the industry was really in a tough hole, that was a result of a federal excise tax increase on all beverage alcohol, and that had an impact. So DISCUS, the Distilled Spirits Council, plays an important role because public policy can have a determining effect on the industry, whether it's tax increases, tariff challenges, which we're in the thick of now. But I'm proud to say one thing that Discus has done pre my time, and I've been at Discus almost 7 years, has helped lead and orchestrate lifestyle media to bring greater attention to cocktail culture and very complimentary. And we'll continue to do that. But there are headwinds that the greater industry is facing, and the industry is going to have to come together to make sure that people understand that enjoying alcohol in moderation for those who choose to drink, it can be done and it can be a part of a balanced lifestyle. And but clearly the greater industry is facing headwinds. I could say many times the beverage alcohol industry, as you know, Bert, is very competitive. The Distilled Spirits Council will take on policy issues that the Beer Institute may not subscribe to, and that's generally because of competitive issue. I'm talking about public policy issues. But over the last 2, 3 years, the relationship that Discus I have forged with my category and industry counterparts have never been greater because there's been a lot of media reports about alcohol and science issues. There's been a lot of challenges, just the marketplace challenges that the industry is facing post the rush of the great growth during the pandemic. And the industry's got to stay together and work hard. And the Discus member companies and distillers around the country have to continue to bring great distilled spirits products to the marketplace and capture the minds and hearts and the taste of consumers around the country.
Yeah, that's a great overview, and that's going to lead to my next question. But what's really important for the listeners, just to give you a recap of some of the significant challenges. You have consumer behavior that's been changed dramatically, generationally, across different generations. You have the alternative beverages that Chris alluded to. Obviously, some of the economic things that are occurring, including both in inflation and also tariff consideration. The GLP-1 drugs, it has affected in some respect, and I don't know we have great data on it, but we assume they are affecting in food and beverage. And of course, the messaging of media, so that Chris has to work with on a daily basis. So coming back to that point of all those significant challenges, Chris, what are you doing to, as you alluded to it, to unite all the producers and supply chain partners, service providers, et cetera, to navigate collectively during these times? You mentioned the word occasions. Maybe is there a way to create occasions that connect emotionally with the consumer? What are you guys working on to try to drive that and bring the spirits industry back into growth mode?
Now is the time for the industry to come together. The spirits industry for sure, but at the same time, we're working like never before in a positive way with our friends in the beer and wine industry as well. It's a collective effort, and we're working very well together. Certainly, if you're leading a P&L for a distiller, you got to get up every day and find ways to connect with your consumers and bring your great brands to the marketplace. Discus tries to bring everybody together from an advocacy perspective. And we have a great grassroots platform called Spirits United. Imagine that. So Discus is really the organization where everybody can come together, competitors alike, and find areas of common ground to work together to protect and advocate for the industry.
No, I think it's smart, and it's great leadership on your part, Chris, in terms of bringing the entire adult beverage industry together collectively, because really all three areas, the beer, wine, spirits, they have their own challenges individually, but collectively some of the impact do cross over to all those categories, and I think it's really smart that you guys are working together.
Yeah, Bert, and I would say great companies like yours plays an important role too. Mm-hmm. Nurturing, bringing in talent within the industry is a critical component to it. And now that the industry is facing, significant challenges, talent within our great member companies will will be critical to that. I've had the privilege of working for two major spirit suppliers. I started in the industry in 1995, working for Allied Domestic Spirits and Wine, and then ultimately transitioned to Beam Global and led their global corporate affairs. So I've had the privilege of being in leadership meetings, management meetings for both of those great companies, where at the time the industry faced a whole host of challenges in 1995. And of course, DISCUS is a membership organization. We represent our great member companies, but just the natural role of DISCUS is we really do represent the greater good of all the industry. Of course, I'm going to say everybody should be an active member of DISCUS, and we want that. And we have tried to set up an organization to make DISCUS really inviting for everyone in the industry to get engaged. The leadership of POTUS is a perfect example of that.
Hmm.
And the more we come together, whether it's identifying and bringing great talent within the industry, whether it's advocating for the industry, whether it's identifying proactive policies to be able to bring our great brands to the marketplace without punitive policies, that's going to make sure that this industry thrives for the long term.
Yeah, it's so important. The talent is so important. You think about mindset, right? There's the can-do mindset, and then there are those that see the challenges that allow it to impact them. And when I think about talent, what a time for great talent. You're going to have some people that leave the industry and seek other things, other growing categories. But let's just be really honest. This category, the adult beverage sector, distilled spirits included, and all that, it's not going away. So what an opportunity for great leaders to come into this and really set themselves apart as a leadership and really what I would call exponentially lift their careers for those kind of leaders that have a can-do attitude.
No doubt about it. I mean, this is a life discussion, but you know, in every life you're confronted with challenges, whatever they may be. And you got to learn and you got to rise to the moment, right? And this is probably a rise to the moment time for the beverage alcohol industry. And it's going to be incumbent upon great leaders with the industry to help rise to the moment. Companies like yours
Hmm.
help facilitate that.
Yeah, it's always about the flight and fight, right? And so those that are willing to stay and fight or come into this category,
Right.
it's a hell of an opportunity. It really is. So you're sitting right there in D.C. I'm just curious. This is not anything we prepared for, but you're there. How often and how often are you with the Trump administration, the current administration, and how are you guys working together today?
Critical. Look, discus historically and will continue to be because it's an important part of our success. We're not partisan. We lead the cocktail party. We don't lead the Republican Party or the MAGA movement or the progressive movement or the Democratic Party. So it doesn't matter which party is in control of government or which party controls Congress. Our job is to tell the story of the distilled spirits industry to policymakers and help them educate them and help them fully understand that the policies that they may consider could have opportunities or repercussions for the greater hospitality industry. And the hospitality industry plays a significant role in the
Hmm.
economic vitality in the country, whether it's hotels and bars and restaurants or tourism. The distilled spirits industry plays a prominent role in that regard. So we work very, very closely with the Trump administration, helping them to understand our important role in how this industry can contribute really to what the Trump administration is trying to do. So we try not to take sides. We've worked very closely with the Biden administration, and when President Trump was reelected, we certainly pivoted because we're on the side of the cocktail party.
Yep.
And if the cocktail party, the distilled spirits industry, can be a beneficiary, it doesn't matter which party you're from, they're beneficiaries as well. The Trump administration has a very focused, dedicated, uh, policy agenda and the international trade agenda, where the president is trying to bring more American manufacturing jobs to the United States, reduce trade deficits. I mean, he's flipping things on its head in
Hmm.
terms of how you normally do business. And the industry's got to understand that and adjust to that. And what we're trying to do with the Trump administration is make sure they understand that a strong, fair, and reciprocal trade policy where there's zero for zero tariffs for our industry, whether it's between the United States and Mexico or Canada or the EU, has enabled our industry to survive and thrive. And we're working very closely as the president is leaning in a very unorthodox way, a very aggressive trade policy, America First trade policy. We got to make sure he understands how that trade policy can ultimately benefit our great industry, but at the same time, benefit what he's trying to do, which is trying to drive for a thriving American economy. He calls it the golden age of America, bringing it back. Our industry has a role in that.
Yeah, when you think about the golden age, and you go back years ago, that's really when the distilled spirits started actually coming more and more and more in focus and heavy growth. And we, like you said, I think we were on a run of 15, 16, 18 years of consistent growth until we hit these headwinds. Yeah, across, if you think about from a partisan perspective, it doesn't matter where you are. Everybody likes to sit down and have a nice glass of tequila or bourbon or
Great,
whatever, right?
great
Yeah,
glass of wine or a
exactly.
cold beer, it doesn't matter,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So now we have an industry that, particularly in the distilled spirits, it's very heritage rich, right? There's so much tradition. If you think about a bourbon or a Scotch, every one of them have this incredible story behind it and how it came to be. And the fact that that's evolving, how can companies, the brands that we work with and certainly you represent, how do they balance that tradition of how they came to be along with innovation and connecting with the consumer and bringing the industry is still a very large industry, and it's going to find its way back on the plus side as well here shortly. I'm pretty confident. But how do you blend that tradition with innovation, and how do you seeing the companies do that, and what advice are you giving them?
Well, I could look, don't just, this is me being in and out of the industry for, more than 25 plus years, but of course you can't discount the heritage because consumers appreciate and gravitate the heritage of how bourbon came about or how rum came about or tequila and so forth. So certainly not discount innovation, but not discount heritage because that's a critical role. But innovation is key. Just in the last 5 years, you've seen a lot of great growth in spirits-based ready-to-drink products.
Yeah.
And that is the one product category that is shining. That is due, that is due to innovation. A combination of not disregarding the heritage and the stories that resonate with consumers, but at the same time, making sure that the industry drives innovation, finding new ways to galvanize, to capture the hearts and tummies of consumers is a combination. And that's something that the spirits industry has done really well over the last 20 plus years, if not more. And it's an incumbent upon the industry to continue to do that. Everything that DISCUS does is we try to be consumer led. And obviously, if you're running a small distillery or if you're one of the larger spirits companies, being consumer led is going to be the key to our success going forward.
Good. That's a good point. So in your mind, that said, why do you believe being consumer first is so important, or even more important than ever, perhaps?
Because we've got to capture the hearts and the minds of the consumers. And it appears, look, I'm not a marketing person, just someone that's been in and out of the industry for a long time, with a lot of experience in corporate communications, brand PR, government relations, obviously, guided by responsibility. We haven't talked about that, but that's a
Hmm.
critical component of the industry's success. But it's got to be consumer led because if you're not capturing the hearts and minds of the consumer and bringing new products to market, then you're losing. And that doesn't, you know, that counts for Procter and Gamble, which brings a whole variety of great consumer products
Hmm.
to the marketplace. But the same thing applies to distilled spirits.
You brought up responsibility, and I know it's so critically important. We're talking about consumption and increasing consumption and facing headwinds of declining consumption. We've talked a lot about the consumption, but you guys are also very, very instrumental in working with all the manufacturers around responsibility in terms of the distilled industry. We'll talk a little bit about that, if you would, Chris.
Bert, it's a critical component to the industry's success and to the industry's credit, and it's something that the industry should be very, very proud of. Look, we all recognize, and we've all seen in our daily lives circumstances where someone overserves himself, or things just get out of hand. I mean, alcohol abuse, alcohol use disorder, exists within our industry. So I would say number one, the industry, to its credit, has great awareness and
Mm.
recognition of that. We don't run from that. I had the privilege in playing a leadership role, not only on behalf of DISCUS, but on behalf of responsibility.org, to lean in. And the way I would look at responsibility, and it's a little bit of a buzzkill word if you want to think about it, but the more progress the industry makes in how we market and advertise our products, the more progress we make on efforts like eliminating underage drinking, eliminating impaired and drunk driving,
Mhm.
where innocent victims are impacted all the time as a result of that bad preventable decision. Uh, that means sustainability for the industry. When things get out of control or consumers get out of control, what does government naturally do? They naturally regulate
Yep.
and they over-regulate. So the more progress we make for more Americans to enjoy beverage alcohol as intended, responsibly, with a meal, in moderation, that bodes well for the industry. That bodes well for the industry from an economic perspective as well, right? Because when you see bad things happening related to alcohol abuse, and we all know that can happen any given
Mhm.
night with anyone that decides to have a cocktail or a glass of wine or a beer, uh, bad things can happen. And the more we all enjoy alcohol as intended and responsibly, that means sustainability for the industry because that will enable us to be able to advocate and bring products to market and they're enjoyed the way that they're intended.
Yeah, I think all industries, adult beverage and other, it's a great example where you're running toward the problem versus running away from the problem. And categories that do that have a better chance of self-regulation versus governmental regulation, which is
You
so
got it.
critical.
Yeah, those you've seen them, and we don't have to go into detail. I don't want to call another industry out, but
Mhm.
the industries that recognize, run towards the problem, try to play a positive role in addressing that. And you could be a widget company, you could be,
Mhm.
an oil and gas company or whatever. Run towards the problem, play a positive role to fix it. And I'm proud to say the beverage alcohol industry and certainly the distilled spirits industry and through organizations like responsibility.org play a central role and we work with government to prevent the abuse of beverage alcohol and that's a critical component.
Yeah, well, Chris, really thank you for everything you do for Discus. It is amazing. And before we wrap this up, I always ask guests on the show, who's the single person that has the most influence in your past, current, or whatever that's impacted where you sit today?
I've had the privilege in my variety of roles in my career to work with some fascinating, great CEOs that have contributed to whatever professional success that I've had. But I drove to DC after graduating from Texas Tech in December 1988. And one of my first bosses was a lady by the name of Mary Heitman, and she was one tough cookie. She'd beat me up every day, but for the greater good. She was a great teacher, and I never, ever, ever wanted to disappoint her, even though I'm sure I did as a young politico here in D.C. And she invoked uh, a spirit of energy and a value set of always putting the organization that you work for always first and foremost. So those values I try to live by, even as having the privilege of being the CEO of Discus. Every once in a while, you're going to get burned, right?
Yep.
Life burns you. A company may burn you. Circumstances may burn you. But she was a significant influence. If you give everything you have in a job and you do it for the right reasons, for the betterment of the organization, 99.9% of the time, good things are going to happen. And if you bring those values and that passion to work every day, good things are going to come for you as an individual, and good things are going to come for the organization. So, again, I congratulate you and your efforts in helping nurture and bring talent in the industry. And please know, just organizations like the Distilled Spirits Council and responsibility.org, we find it as a privilege to represent this great industry. There is no more passionate advocate for the industry, whether it's me having to deal with the Trump administration. I'm embarking on a trip soon to Scotland to work on tariffs. We're gonna give everything we have, and I am lucky to have a great team both at Discus and responsibility.org that invokes that same passion. So to make a long story short, I got my butt beat on a regular basis by a hard-nosed female that really embedded me at a young age, core values and core passion, and hopefully that has helped me enjoy working with a lot of great leaders within the industry over the past 25 plus year career.
Well, wherever Mary is today, she's extremely proud of what you're doing. I can tell you that. I love asking that question because every CEO and people that I come across have been impacted by a person or two that's really made that difference, that inflection point, some point in their career that sent them down the path of what they're on and what they're doing today. So I appreciate that story, Chris. And thank you for joining us on Beyond the Bottom Line. I really appreciate you having you, Chris. This is Bert Miller. I look forward to the next episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, and we'll see you next time.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bert. Cheers.
Cheers.